Welcome to today's episode of Financial Fluency. Today I have Brad and Greta Zude from mybabycansleep.com. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey Jen, what's going on?
Well, I'm excited to have you here because if anyone's listened for a long time, you may have heard me at some point mention that my family has sleep disorders. My daughter does. My oldest daughter has multiple disabilities and a sleep disorder. My youngest had surgery when she was almost 5 for obstructive sleep apnea. My husband has had surgery for obstructive sleep apnea and has a CPAP. So I'm really excited to hear both.
I'm not sure who's the bigger pro on this conversation right here, right now. I don't know.
Well, I'm a pro on things that don't work.
Well, maybe we can get you some help today.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would love to hear how you ended up starting this business.
Yeah, so, our journey really began 9 years ago. So a little background, we've got 6 kids, 9 down to 1-year-old. So we've got a lot of kids squished into a short amount of time. And 9 years ago, 10 years ago, before our first daughter was born, we were going to be really super prepared. I mean, we did the parenting classes even before we were pregnant. We learned about sleep and getting our baby on a schedule. And
read all the books.
We read all the books. And so we were like, okay, this is the way it's going to go. And our baby's going to sleep through the night by 8 weeks old, and she's going to take naps beautifully. And and it worked a little bit when she was first born. And then when she turned about 4 weeks old, I actually call it the 4-week curse in our house because it happens with our 4-week-old babies that they stop sleeping. And, the naps that they were taking, they just stop taking naps, and they wake up, multiple times throughout the night, even more than they had before. And
we didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, why isn't our baby sleeping? And so we actually got in connection with a sleep consultant, and she really helped me work out what was normal, what was not, how to push through or to give and take and tweak and do all that stuff. And even though I had known a lot, I just needed some direction. And after a couple weeks, things started going more smoothly. And at 8 weeks old, she slept through the night. And so through that process and having more babies and teaching other people, we really started learning a lot about sleep. And it kind of grew into this thing like, well,
how'd you do that?
Yeah, how'd you do that?
How'd you do that?
Can you teach us? So we actually started holding classes at church, and maybe once a year or so for all the pregnant people around us. And yeah,
the rest is just kind of history.
The rest is history. But get this. So my husband, who has an entrepreneurial spirit, he comes home, the last baby was about 2 weeks old. So 2 weeks postpartum, and you know how tired you are, and
a tender state.
Yeah. And so he comes home and he's like, I got it. I know what we're doing. I got our next business. We're going to be baby sleep consultants. I'm like, what? We're going to start this online course and it's going to be great. And I was a little frazzled at that point, but things started rolling, and we developed our online class, developed our Facebook page, and now we have over 550 students now. So it's been a great journey.
Pretty wild.
That's fantastic. Well, and especially since you've learned this across 6 babies, I only have 2, but they're different. Like not every baby does the same thing. So you have more personal experience with your own baby than the average person does.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Groups. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. And I know the difference that sleep can make. I mean, Ariana,
we solve an enormous problem that families, sleep affects all areas of life, and it's a really, really big deal. The stress from not sleeping, they equate to the stress that parents would go through in divorce or death of a loved one. I mean, it's amongst the highest level of stresses out there.
Yeah, I totally believe it, because then you don't get all the regenerative benefits of sleep. It's been a little while, but I read Ariana Huffington's book Thrive, about not sleeping, what that did to her, what it does to other people. And I've seen it in my own family because having special needs kids, who my oldest daughter continued that infant sleep pattern through my next baby being born and then beyond, you know, the sleeping 2-3 hours at a time, being up for 2 or 3 hours at a time. And I think it aged me a good 10 years in about 2 or 3 years of just having that continue so long.
Well, you look great.
Thank you. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to focus. It's hard to have memory. It's hard to drive. I mean, it's dangerous to drive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that people don't really understand how awful not sleeping is to your health. Yeah. I mean, accidents, the percentage of accidents, it increases by, I think, 30% when you are sleep deprived. So you're more likely to get into accidents and have things happen to your baby. You know, if you're not paying attention, if you're not alert with your little ones at home, I mean, think about the things that could happen, the accidents that could happen at home with your little ones. And so people just don't really think. They think, well, I'm surviving. I'm doing what I have to do. And they don't know that there's a different way.
It doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, they don't know that it doesn't have to be like that. So
yeah. Well, I think that's a great message to give people. It's a message of hope for sure. And some people do think, well, it's just a few months, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it really can go on.
Yeah.
And you having 6 babies in 9 years, some of them must be pretty close together.
Yeah, I think our closest are 15 months, 15 months to 2 years apart. So yeah, they're good, close together. I've needed a lot of sleep and rest to deal with the little
when you sleep, it's so easy. Just, have some more, no big deal. So, but Jen, it's so funny because we have people in our course that tell us every day, they're like, literally, we were pretty much going to be done because this was our first baby and it was so awful. And you've given us hope, and now we can sleep, and now a second one's back on the table and all this stuff. So it's amazing the life transformation we get to see.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, can you share some of how this business has changed both other people's lives and you guys? How has it helped?
Yeah, boy, we get, like Brad said, we get messages all day, every day about, people posting on our Facebook group, I've got my marriage back. That is so wonderful for me to hear, people's families that had been in disarray because everyone was on edge because of lack of sleep. And families can, when the husband and wife can spend time together again, because children go to bed at 7:30, and then they have until 10 o'clock to spend time together, and they can leave their kids with a babysitter because there's a plan. And
baby sleeping, it's obviously very good and very healthy for the baby. That's the feature, but the benefits are what really change people's lives. We like to joke around and say we're like, the biggest loser TV show except for your baby sleeping, because that's the type of, life transformation that people go through. It's the equivalent of people, losing 100 pounds or whatever these extreme examples are. I mean, these people come to us at their wits' end with their marriage at the brink, their job at the brink. I mean, these are really, really distraught people that come to us.
Right. And the other thing that sleep really helped with our clients, people come with cranky babies that won't take naps, up all night. And after they get their children sleeping, they're like, my baby's so happy. And these children need sleep for their development. And when they don't get it, they're cranky. And so that's great. But personally, boy, how has it changed our lives?
It's funny because we only have a short period of time in all of our 6 kids where our babies really didn't sleep. But, back to our story, we were just, Greta's valedictorian of our high school. We're both college graduates. Like, we're smart, right? We know how to do this. Our babies are going to sleep, and, we're smarter than all that, And, that transformation from seeing that to having the benefits of a sleeping baby. Now when we have a baby, it's like, oh, they're 5 weeks older. They're not sleeping through the night yet. Geez, come on. Let's, what's the deal? So we're spoiled, I guess.
Are you going to have any more?
Whatever God gives us.
Just thought I'd ask because, you've had 6. So for your family, in terms of starting this business, because Greta, you said before we started, you mentioned that you homeschool the kids and that you're a stay-at-home mom. So has having this business of you working with families and couples with new babies, how has that affected your family? Is it bringing in additional income, I I imagine.
It is.
Yeah, it's been really good and really challenging.
Yeah, it does have its challenges. Of course, running a business takes time. And we have a really, we love focusing on our family. I keep the kids with me all day because I want to pour into them all day. And that's a big value for us to have them all the time. So, but then that leaves me with little time to work on business stuff. But, baby sleep is one of our things that we do, but we also focus on child training. So the benefit to our family is that as I schedule the children during the day, I can schedule some rest time or some room time or some time where I can during the day get some things done. So every day I have a period of an hour and a half to 2 hours where they're working on personal work, or the babies are napping, and then when they go to bed, because they go to bed at a reasonable time, then we get to work. And so it's good. And challenging all at the same time. So
I think one of the biggest benefits, for our family in particular is that, we in general with 6 kids just operate at a very high level, structure and, high level and being in the mindset all the time and helping other parents and training other parents really helps us keep our game sharp.
Yeah. And we never want to lose focus. We don't want to help other people and then neglect our own family. So that's always a balance that we try to, stick in the middle.
We work hard on keeping.
We work on keeping that balance so that we don't start neglecting our children because they need, that's our first ministry. That's where we want to put all of our energy and focus. And it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to help other people while neglecting our own. So.
Well, it's always good to teach by example.
Yes.
So if your family is the example of the kids sleeping and having structure that allows everything that your family needs, then that's the best way to teach is to be like, here's what we do.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they say more is caught than taught. So it definitely keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, it does. But when I'm preaching this to people all day long, like how to discipline your children, how to teach them to come when you call their name, how to teach them to obey and stay in bed. You know what? It really helps me to stay accountable to the way that I speak to my children and how I am consistent and I follow through. And if I'm telling somebody else that, I better be doing the same thing. So.
Those are interesting things. And honestly, as a mom of a special needs kid, that stay in bed, that's one of the hardest things. Not often I stay with her to fall asleep. Yeah. Actually, as you're talking about all this, I'm thinking about all these things in my own household because for a period of time, we did put my husband into the guest room just because his sleep he's been diagnosed with hypervigilant sleep disorder at this point, because when our youngest had her apnea before her surgery, she would wake up choking in the night. And it's a terrifying sound for a parent to hear your child choke. Yeah. And it was from infancy. She at night, she sounded like a 200-pound, 80-year-old man. Like that was her snore. It was, and she's a tiny little baby. So, I mean, for her, it really was obstructed and she really did need the surgery. We tried to wait because the idea of surgery on a baby is so hard. But at this point, my husband, he wakes up, the slightest thing wakes him up. So we ended up putting him in the guest room and me with the kids. And it completely has disrupted, the parents' room, having a bed together, spending nights together. Like, I'm one of those families that probably needs some of this help, really. So how do you get kids to stay in bed?
Oh boy. Yeah, this is a tough one. It is so hard. It really comes down to you laying out those expectations and then following through. All of parenting is about your resolve to get it done. I mean, are you going to allow it or not? You allow it one time and you're training in the negative. You're saying, well, I said this, you can't trust what I say. So, and that will cause them to push harder and harder in the direction that they want to go. But they have to be able to trust what you say. So if you say you need to stay in your bed, and then they get out of bed when they're not supposed to, then there have to be consequences. And that's kind of a dirty word these days, consequences. And it's hard to talk about. But, you know, we have to think about our lives as adults. And we change our habits only when there are consequences. There are going to be different consequences that children face as we train them. But, you know, you think about your health or, you know, weight. And I'm not going to change eating three donuts a day until my health is so bad that it requires me. You know, it's the pain of my health or my weight or my energy level that causes me to not eat those donuts, right? So we have to feel pain in order to change. And if there's no pain, we typically don't change. So just as we have to feel pain to change, children also have to feel pain of some kind of consequence to change.
Well, and one of the key concepts that we have is we teach the difference between training and discipline. So we want to train our children, and then we want to have discipline. So training is, hey, come here, Andrew. I'm going to show you what it looks like to stay in your bed. And this is your bed, and we're going to put you on it. And this is the floor. And this is where we want our feet not to go. Our feet don't go on the floor.
This is more complicated than you would think. You have to be very specific.
Yes.
Like, toes don't go here.
Yeah. And you have to train them. And then once you understand that they understand, then we can begin to hold them accountable to an instruction that they have demonstrated that they have the ability to do, which, you know, toddlers and babies have really strong wills, right? And we just have to have a stronger will, because, you know, when two wills collide, the stronger one absorbs the weaker one. And a lot of times parents can be on the wrong end of that equation. So
yeah, and it's out of love too, because you know what's best for your child. You know that teaching them to stay in bed is going to aid in their sleep, and it's going to help the family. And you can do that in love. You know, you don't have to get angry to train your children. You don't have to, you know, do all those typical things that you think about with discipline and training in your mind and in your heart.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, we toilet train our children.
Yeah.
I guess most of us don't think about sleep training our children. I mean, that's one of those things you think that will just happen naturally, but it doesn't always. Yeah. It's really something that needs to be taught. Yeah.
At a young age. And with the little babies, it's more of mechanics and feedings and teaching them to self-soothe. And but with the older ones, it can be more of a discipline issue of teaching them to stay in their bed. And boy, I've spent many days, many hours, many evenings sitting outside my toddler's doors where they can't see me, but I can see them, and making sure that they stay in bed. And if they don't, you know, I'm right there. I can see if their toe hits the floor, and I'm in there as soon as their toe hits the floor. So I get it. I get the battle. I get the struggle, and you know, we do it. We do it too.
When what happens, you know, a lot of times with parents, and I think in life, is that, you know, parents forego the couple hours of work to train your child to stay in bed for the days and weeks and months of agony, you know, and it's such an investment, you know, talk about, you know, financial fluency. I mean, all these things we're talking about are investments. You know, we want you to invest in your marriage, in your children, in your family, because you can take 2 days and you can train your child to stay in bed, and then you have the rest of your life and everything is fine. And investing in those moments are just pay off over and over and over.
I think about like teaching my child to sweep the floor. If I don't take the time to show them how to do it, I'm gonna get frustrated. You know, boy, you just can't do it right. How long have you been working on this? You know, you miss crumbs everywhere. But if I take some time and set aside and like do the hard training, then it clicks and they get it. But I've got to put the time in to help my children learn to do something, learn to do their skills.
And it is tough, I think, with children to have unspoken expectations, like to expect them to know how to do something that you've never taught them to do is unfair.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's just like a marriage, you know, Greta will tell you, I'm not a very good mind reader. And, you know, I have to engage her and know what she likes. And she prefers chocolate over flowers. And, you know, I know that about her. So, you know, I don't have a lot of misguided effort into, you know, making her feel special, and our children are the same way, because, when we invest in them, nobody feels more grown up and special than our children. I taught Andrew is what, he's
Five. Almost 6.
5. I don't even know the ages of our kids.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm at the pharmacy the other day picking up our prescriptions. I'm like, honey, I need their birthdays. They won't let this medication go without all their birthdays. I only got 4 out of the 6.
That's a lot of birthdays to keep track of.
Yeah. So our 5-year-old, we taught him how to empty the garbage in our house. I walked around, each week, for a few weeks and said, this is what we do. And I tell you what, that little guy is so proud. He's just Mr. Garbage Man. He thinks he's just 10 foot tall and bulletproof because he's a contributing member to the family. And it just is amazing how children blossom when you give them a responsibility.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. Yeah. So for people who are listening, who have young children and are thinking, okay, that sounds good, but like exactly what do I do? Do you have some tips to help people who are in the desperate state with their baby? Like how?
Yeah. We've kind of transitioned more into toddler preschool, but and talking training there, but we can bring it back to babies. So we have a video on Facebook that's our 3 Secrets of a Sleeping Baby video. It's on our website too.
1.9 million views.
Yeah.
Help us crack that 2 million mark. Would you go watch it like right now? Get us over the 2.
But there we talk about kind of the major issues that people have and why babies aren't sleeping. We just kept seeing these things over and over again. And so we squashed it into a little video. And so these are very broad overview. Of course, when you join our course, we go through every single little tip and how to do it. But, very broadly, our first secret is that a good night starts with a good day. And so many people think that sleep training starts at night. They're like, well, boy, it's been 6 months. This baby won't sleep through the night. That's it. We're just gonna let them cry it out tonight. We're gonna sleep train them, and they don't have success because they started at night. But really, we have to start with the entirety of the whole day beforehand. It's about getting full feedings. It's about teaching your baby to take naps on their own. It's about getting on a good, consistent routine where they have eating and then they are awake and then they sleep. And you can't flip-flop these activities. So it's really about the entirety of this whole day before bedtime.
Yeah, most people think that if you jam rice cereal in your baby and then you do some magical process of taking a bath and lotions and then 3 prayers and 4 books and 7 songs and click your heels 3 times fast, your baby's going to fall asleep. And it's really about good solid calories throughout the whole daytime and starting sleep training during the day, teaching them that skill.
Yeah, and then it transitions into nighttime. And boy, when we have people start during the day, sometimes, well, I would say probably 75% of the time, baby sleeps the first night. Like,
wow,
they get themselves to sleep and they sleep from their last feeding, a dream feed at 10 p.m. until 7 in the morning, just on the first night. So it is so much about that.
Are the people do you work with both breastfeeders and bottle feeders? And
absolutely, yeah.
Because my kids almost always fell asleep while nursing.
Yeah,
sleepers, and that did make it hard because then it was like they won't sleep, nurse them,
Yeah.
But then they also associate sleep with nursing, which makes it hard to wean, and
Yeah, that's actually our secret number 2.
Yeah, go into number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so our secret is that babies need to be taught sleep and not bought sleep. So like you said, one of the biggest offenders is nursing or bottle feeding to sleep, but people spend a lot of money too on rockers, rock and plays and mattresses and, all those fancy things or swings to get their baby sleeping. But you really don't need anything at all. And what you've discussed right there was a sleep crutch. Nursing is a huge offender. It is the biggest sleep crutch there is.
Tell them what a sleep crutch is.
So a sleep crutch, like you said, is something that baby associates with sleep. So they use it to get to sleep. And then when they wake back up after that first sleep cycle, they can't get themselves back to sleep. And then they need you again to help them to get back to sleep.
So one of the things inside of that is we teach babies how to go from fully wide awake to fully asleep without the help of anyone or anything. So that's our core definition of sleep. Fully wide awake to fully asleep without the help of anyone or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it really does follow that process of they wake up from nap or from the morning, in the morning, and you feed them, and then they have a wake time, and then you put them to sleep. And it doesn't mean that you can't have some kind of bedtime routine or a nap time routine, but we want to put them in bed fully awake, and they have to learn.
Yeah, I think car rides, that was another crutch that I used.
Yes.
Somehow something about the vibration or something my kids really liked, but then there was a period of time where it'd be like, aren't they asleep yet? I need to get back home and do something. And yeah.
See, the problem with those tricks are because they're just tricks. Yeah. And at some point, babies grow developmentally, and then at some point your tricks don't work anymore. That's why people a lot of times around the 4 month, they get the 4 month sleep regression, and well, the baby was sleeping just fine, and now they won't sleep at all. And I call it the 4 month developmental change because I refuse to call it sleep regression. Because baby has woken up, your old tricks don't work. So they have to know the skill.
So what's tip number 3 of those 3 tips?
This is probably my favorite tip. It's that information alone is not enough. And that's our story, is that we knew the books, we read the books, we knew what to do, but we didn't know what to do. And so many people out there, so many of our students are like, just tell me what to do. Tell me exactly what to do.
The world doesn't lack information. You can go to Google and you can read yourself in a circle with information.
Yeah.
And, like we say, reading a book on how to get a baby sleeping through the night and then expecting your baby to do it is like going to Amazon and ordering a book on Spanish and reading it and expecting to be fluent in Spanish, or tomorrow, reading a book on finance, how to get out of debt, and then, thinking you're going to get out of debt tomorrow. And it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And so that's what we provide with people with is the personal mentoring and telling, people what's normal, what's not normal, pointing them in the right direction. Because like Brad said, there's so much information out there, and it's all confusing and it's all conflicting. I mean, you're driving down this path, and then someone tells you, no, absolutely do not go down that path, and you just don't know which way to go. And
when you switch, it probably confuses your kids too. When you're like, we'll cry it out, but oh no, wait, now I've read you're not supposed to, so never mind, we won't cry it out anymore.
Right. It is so confusing and so frustrating.
And that's what we really do in our course. It's a mentorship. Our Sleep Accelerator course is you get a video class, so you learn all these core contents, but you get invited to a Facebook group with us where we interact with you, and then we have mentor sessions where you hop on a call like this, and you just get to get your questions answered, because it's, our design is ongoing support. So we give families and moms the ability to log on and have these types of conversations and really make those small tweaks, that make all the difference.
Customized plans.
And the other thing I was thinking was with my kids who did, my youngest especially, there was a medical underlying problem that we didn't know at first. It took a while for those adenoids and the tonsils to get so big that they were obstructing this airway. Are you guys able to help people identify, like, you should check this out, go to a doctor to make sure? Are you able to?
Yeah, I think that is such a huge benefit of sleep training your baby, because, a non-sleep trained baby will not sleep much of the time. So you don't know when something is actually wrong. And so when we help moms get their babies sleep trained, and then they can see the patterns that are normal in their life, then when something happens, like baby woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then 4 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock, like they've slept through the night for the last month, something's not right here. And so I think that is such a huge benefit. And that's an indication of ear infection, illness, teething, and the alarms can go off where they couldn't go off before because they were always going off.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. And actually for my oldest daughter, obviously this is special needs. This is a little beyond what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, we're not doctors, Jen. Come on here.
You're not doctors, and I'm not either. But when we started her applied behavior analysis program, where they take data on everything, you know, all these behaviors and stuff were going on, they were able to identify that she had an underlying medical issue that would never have gotten diagnosed, or it might have taken us years, because it required a full anesthesia endoscopy with biopsies to find out she had an eosinophilic disorder.
Wow.
And because we kept being like these behaviors, the screaming, and she did have GI problems and a lot of vomiting. Like she was always, from infancy, from nursing, she was a vomiter. But doctors kept being like, once they had diagnosed autism, they were like, well, kids with autism scream. Kids with autism have GI problems. Kids with autism have all these things. But it, like, as we took data on all the different things in her life and looked at antecedents, like what's happening in her environment, what could possibly be triggering this, and we couldn't find things, they helped me insist, like, we need more tests done. We need to find this out. And she actually has a really rare white blood cell disorder that's painful until it's treated. So she was in pain for the first 3.5 years of her life. You know, she got diagnosed with autism just before her 3rd birthday, but it was almost another year before we got this other diagnosis. And if we hadn't had someone helping us monitor what was normal for her and what wasn't, it could have taken a few more years to get there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it is so helpful to have someone, especially when it's your first baby. She was my first.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know it was normal. And we lived off the grid on a ranch back then with no neighbors. You know, we were on a cattle ranch. So I didn't even have other kids playing nearby to compare her to.
Wow.
Whereas you guys have your 6 kids plus your whole community. Kind of source for, has anyone experienced this?
Right.
Yeah. Working with 500 babies now has, you know, you really get to know what's normal and what's not normal. So I think that's a huge help for moms.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because, obviously you have real medical issues. But a lot of moms come to us. They're like, oh, I don't know about my baby. You know, they're really colicky and they're really over here and they're really over here. And we're like, well, I think you'll be okay. And 99% of the time it's just, you know, consequences of lack of sleep.
Yeah. And even for babies with medical issues as well, being on a good routine and knowing how to sleep improves their health. So we've had some with some severe medical issues, and they've been better off learning how to sleep.
Even, you know, we have a lot of babies that have reflux problems, you know, just constantly doing all that. And, you know, when we help moms regulate the feeding schedule, for example, it gets so much better because the moms aren't just pouring gasoline on the fire, you know, in their stomachs. And so those types of even issues really start to, you know, all but go away.
Yeah. That's true, because if you have fluid in your belly as you're falling asleep, if you're, you know, lying down nursing, it can come right back up. Whereas if you stay awake, digest it, and then go to sleep, it probably helps a lot.
Yeah. She's getting it. I think we can almost have her on our team.
Well, and I am thinking, you know, so my oldest daughter with disabilities is 10. And because we co-slept for so long and we did the nursing, and with all of her, she's had a number of surgeries too. Each time she'd come home, I would co-sleep again to be there to help her sleep. And she's tube fed. So, you know, we used to feed through the night, so I'd have to monitor, which we don't anymore. But she's so used to me being there that she really can't seem to sleep without me. And I know that at this point, at 10 years old, that is a behavior thing. It's her wanting me there. And I do want to get to where she just goes to sleep on her own. You know, my 6-year-old can. My 6-year-old can go to lie down in her bunk bed and be fine. And my 10-year-old doesn't. So it's like, yeah, I think I need to work on some of these things. And some of it is because she's been through so much trauma, me always wanting to physically be with her.
Yeah. That's so understandable. And that's so hard. And you go through that. So many moms, I go through that mommy guilt, you know, well, you know, I just, you know, I need her to be comfortable, and I need her, you know, how could I leave her? And, you know, how could I make her upset? And
well, it's interesting because so many moms, you know, come to us with behavioral habits why do you do this? I don't know. Well, we've just kind of always done it, and it's this behavioral, we're not smokers, but I hear people that, quit smoking. It's this lifestyle that they miss, they miss the nicotine, but it's just going outside every, half hour and checking the weather or whatever, and for you, even it's maybe more just that's, I don't know, that's what we do, here at our house. And so we help moms see, hey, is this really a need? Does your 2-year-old really need food in the middle of the night? Or is this just a behavioral, tradition that you keep up every night? And we help to transform their minds and show them, hey, this is just a behavior that we need to really break. It's not out of a need.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I could associate that too. So I'm trying to get off sugar, right? And and sugar is addictive, just like you being with your daughter is, what she's used to. I know it's comforting. And, when I cut the sugar out of my diet, I feel starving, I'm not starving. I've eaten really healthy, great foods all day. I've eaten good portions. But I'm like, I need to eat some sugar. And, it's painful. And so, making that transition for you out of your daughter's room when she's falling asleep is probably going to be really hard for both of you. But on the other side, I feel so much better without sugar, and she's going to sleep so much better. You're going to feel better. And there's going to be some boundaries there, and you're going to get back to your relationship with your husband as well. So,
yeah. Well, we have tried a few times, and I do feel like what you said before, she could outweigh me. I got to where walking her back to her room over and over, once I tried to go lie down in the other room, I missed the sleep before she did. I felt like I couldn't keep going on, so that's something my husband and I were talking about with the Child Family Support Services team here. I was like, at this point, it's made such a difference in our lives. And I've seen too that periods of times where we have managed to get sleep, and part of me doing that was letting her sleep with me and him sleeping in the guest room so he wouldn't be woken up. I could see when I do get 7.5 or 8 hours of sleep in a night, I lose weight without changing anything else. I feel better. Just getting sleep feels like water to a thirsty person.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think I need to go through that difficult time with Tallulah, because then she'll be independent much more.
Well, and that's what, here's what we say, the only thing harder than sleep training your baby or sleep training your toddler is not right. That's the only thing harder than doing it is not doing it, because
what you're doing now is really hard.
You're doing a lot of hard work, a couple days.
If we'd done it 5 years ago, 8 years ago, it would have been much easier.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. We say it's like credit card parenting, you pay now or you pay much, much more later. $50 on the card today is $50, but if you don't pay that bill for a long time, it accumulates fast. And
that's a good analogy on the show.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that's great. So if people are interested and want to get into your course, where do they need to go to find out about this?
Yeah, so our website is mybabycansleep.com. Or you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/mybabycansleep. And you can watch our video or browse our website, look at all of our testimonials. We've got tons of testimonials that are really encouraging. So.
And for parents who are like, oh, my child's a bit older, do you cover the older children stuff as well?
Well,
funny question.
Funny you ask. It's so funny. It's we're growing along with our business, and for Greta and I, we do parenting, all the way up. And what we found with our families that have been with us for a while is that there's a blatant need for potty training and toddler behavior and toddler training and those sorts of things. So
toddler preschool,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way up. So we actually just have a toddler and potty training course coming out probably in very early December. So you'll be able to check out mybabycansleep.com and watch out for that course as well.
Okay, that's great. That is something in my household, again, that we've had to do multiple times. I mean, for Tallulah, it was mainly when she would go into the hospital and have a hospital stay, especially if it was something where she was in, one of her stays was more than a week. She's in a bed.
Wow.
We'd lose toilet training. It would, I mean, this is quite a few years ago, but often kids with special needs, with autism particularly, it pushes it back a bit. There's regressions and stuff. But we did make it through that. And the way we did it was with a timer and me spending, 2 or 3 days rewarding. Yes, we got it. Woohoo! Liquid loading, making sure we taught her doing it right. And I'm sure it's the same thing with sleep. The problem with sleep is, at least with toilet training, I had a night of sleep before. So
it's
sometimes, but
it's so funny. It's back to that theme of, whether it is finances or your baby or all that kind of stuff, usually, some short, good discipline really pays off with long-term, long-run benefits. Usually just changing one little habit, not having your $5 Starbucks Frappuccino every day, just, go down to 3 times a week. It's amazing. The money can just come and the benefits that's reaped by just these small, short-term little changes.
That's a really good point. So to wrap up, is there anything else you guys want to share before we go?
Oh boy. I don't think so. Gosh, if someone's still watching at this point, they got to be super excited or super interested in getting their baby sleeping through the night. And, it's okay to get help. It's really okay to get help. We got help. There's no instruction manual that comes out with the baby afterwards, and it doesn't make you a bad mom or a bad dad, with anything in life. And those students that come to us that are just really humble and genuine and at their wits' end and understand the position they're in, they flourish and they do the best and they come out on top and they come out ahead. And no matter what you're in, just reach out and get help. And it doesn't make you a bad person at all. Get some help.
Well, that sounds like a great place to wrap up. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jen. We really appreciate it.
Okay, well, we'll see you online then.
All right, bye-bye.